Here we go. Let's unmute these two. Alrighty, guys. Welcome back. Right? Has been a while. I gotta apologize that for the last 3 weeks in a row we didn't have an FC chat, but it was just busy and like stuff was like it just never worked out. Then I had someone lined up, but it's like got cancelled in last second. It's just, and I didn't want to just wing it for the hell of it, right? And I hope you guys understand. We want to uphold the quality, right? So today we actually have 3 guests, but Alice hasn't showed up, and I can't blame him too much. It's not his time zone. He said he's gonna, struggle a bit and make it and stuff. I was like, yep, give it a shot. If you're there, you're there. If not, not the end of the world. But luckily, we have 2 more guests. And for those who don't know, we had actually these exact 2 guests on. That's not too long ago, but funny enough, right before those 2 big bomb runs happened, we had that episode about bombers, right? And it was kind of funny with the timing. It just happened to work out like that. And it was Alice who enabled those bomb runs, so I thought that's a fun combination and fun stuff to talk about to begin with. But so for those who have not seen that episode or who are not aware who Chosshu and Sieku are, so Chosshu is the CEO and I guess spiritual leader of a corp called CapF, Capital Fusion, a very well-known corp within Horde. He also likes to do, specialized little fleets, like bombers and all kinds of stuff and sneaky stuff, bombers, chemos. What else? What else falls into that category?
Satya is running and cooking.
Oh yeah, true. We see each other every now and then doing that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, he's like a little bit of a specialist, but he also does like normal fleets, right?
Not so much actually these days. I've kind of gotten tired of the kind of
the mutants,
tie-dye fest hack on hack stuff.
I'm feeling you. I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's just not so interesting for me these days. But yes, but last year at least I've been trying to do a little bit more of the small scale stuff. But yeah.
And it's not a coincidence that I put Chosshu and Sieku on the podcast together twice in a row now. And that's because Sieku is has a pretty similar approach to the game, which is, he's actually probably the best well-known Bomber FC in the game, I would say. Or maybe, I don't know who else, maybe.
I hope not.
I would probably say, like, just from the fame level, probably Big Red Board is up there. But is he as feared as you? I don't know, right? But it always depends on what side you're talking to, I guess, right? So Sieku is the bomber expert when it comes to the expert when it comes to bombers from test, and I would say Harpy, right? So during the war, when it came to hey, who's forming the bomber wing, it probably was Sieku, and Chosshu probably did chemos or something, right? If I have to take a guess. So
yeah, I think I ran most of the. I was pretty regular. I'm not sure like what other groups. There were other groups as well, including Horde and some other Pappy groups. But yeah, I ran bombers for pretty much every major fight that I could. So a lot of experience. Didn't always turn out well, of course, but
I often did the AU time zone bomber fleets, and I think Sieku would do the EU time zone and US time zone. But sometimes we'd actually overlap and we'd have like both things sorted.
Yeah, we coordinate as needed. But yeah, it was usually we were operating pretty independently because different time zones and like different organizations and stuff. But
yeah,
well, that's pretty similar to me and Alice then, right? Because Alice is China time zone to Euro time zone. I would do Euro time zone, maybe even China time zone, depends on like what day it is and stuff. And I could go, if it's important, go into US time zone if I have to. And sometimes we would overlap too. And those 2 bomb runs I brought up earlier, we overlapped. It wasn't like planned like that, but we knew each other and we knew what the other guy was trying to do, and it worked out pretty well. Sometimes That's what it takes, right? 2 bomber fleets. Sometimes you need
We
two.
had a couple
A
of
happy coincidence.
so we had a couple of good coordinations in like 3 Tech D and stuff, but yeah, nothing of obviously to the scale that you guys pulled off in that one run, but
Well,
it was pretty cool.
when it comes to bombing, I think 90% of it is opportunity, right? I think
Set up an opportunity, yeah.
Yeah, I think getting set up is probably not even that hard if the fights always take place in the same 2-3 systems. So getting set up wasn't that issue, but having the opportunity, you guys never had that opportunity because we didn't have that many dudes on the gate trying to exit and stuff. I mean, maybe at times, but
Well, the thing about the gate is so different from like a jump gate. It's like on the extract out of 3 Tech D, which is like where ideally you'd want to hit them, or like in the intract, like it's so hard to do a tick bomb when it's only 1,000-kilometer warp from like a keep star.
Also, just the dimensions of the
gate. They have to go to the gate. So I wish we would have been more set up when you guys were coming into like T5Z earlier on, but we didn't quite have that tactic like developed yet. So
like also the way that the antiplex actually works in terms of warp distances, it's much harder to bomb an antiplex than the gate just because of,
especially when you relative or sphere warp onto it.
Yeah, because you end up like within 10 kilometers or so of the antiplex, and it's much easier for you to get decloaked and all that stuff, which ruins the whole thing.
And the warp formations, that was the big topic the last time you guys were on, right? Because we were all
still hate formations, man.
If I was a pure bomber FC, I would 100% agree, because like for bombing, like, I mean, have you guys seen normal, like in-fight kind of bomb runs since relative, or like since formations, warp formations?
Yeah, not really.
No. Not when they land, the other way from the anchor, and then it's freaking Munins online, so they're always fast as heck, so it's hard.
We've done them a few times during the war, but it's it's very rare that you can pull them off, and often when you do pull them off, they're not very effective either, because just the way that the warpins work, it's hard to get overlapping squads when you're going against Munins, which are going almost 3 KMS, right? 2.5 with links. So.
Yeah.
At that point, you're trying to get a void bomb, or you're trying to just like sacrifice a tackle and scram the anchor or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I was thinking about doing for a long time during the war is to set it up so, for example, we jump in, you guys are next door, and then you jump into us. If we have like a smaller fleet, you would probably do that, right? And then if we are like 120 off the gate, you would burn straight for us, right? Having then the bombers set up already, that would be one way of landing something significant, right? But even then, the positioning would have to be so exact, and you guys would have to be burning so exactly in the right spot. It's like it's almost
you gotta lead that too, right? And you gotta lead it. And if you're like, the bomb radius is super small, and like a big grid like that too on a gate, it's like just the ranges can be really difficult too. But it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, or you could stagger it, right? So you could have like bomb squads instead of trying to. Sorry, I thought my phone is fucking going crazy. Instead of trying to have like all the bombers hit at once, have several bomb squads set up along the way, right? So they burn towards you and you hit them first time. And then they say, okay, it's only one squad. Keep burning. And then the next squad comes in, right? And you know how quickly that develops into a real problem, right?
Yeah.
Until you bubble again, they just burn away and warp off and probe onto you or something.
That's the Munin thing, right? And then try to bubble them while you bomb them. You just bomb the bubbles anyway. So it's like, it's so tough, right? It's so fucking tough.
It's like, it's so easy to get set up, and then like one small little minor detail, like they'll move like 5 kilometers to the left, and all your setup is useless because they're out of range now.
Yeah, and then timing it during tie-dye. That's actually something I wanted to talk to Alice about. It's like during tie-dye, timing special things like bush bomb runs, which is what Alice kind of specialized on later on, right? That is so hard because, you never know when you're if you decloak and then hit your bush, you never know when the server's like, oh yeah, now you're decloaked and you can bush. Right? Like, when are you going to throw the bombs and all that stuff, right?
Because wait till you see the bombs in your overview, wait until they get within like that 15 kilometers, and then hope the server doesn't screw you.
Yeah, so there was 2 different approaches to bush bomb runs. I wanted to, because of that tie-dye problem, I wanted to do it like this, which is I bomb from a further distance, but the command of go, go, go goes for everyone. So it goes for the bombers, but at the same exact timing, you have the decloak and boosh, which then would obviously, or like most likely, result in all those things having the same timing still, relative, right?
Yeah, you'd have to bomb within 15 kilometers or something, though, because it's like your booch is going to take 6 seconds and your bombs are going to travel 15 kilometers in those 6 seconds. So, like, you just have to be really careful with the range.
Yeah.
And if your module doesn't go off, you're going to kill everyone.
You know what? I tried the distance timing in tie-dye and it doesn't work because you cannot count on it. It takes too long. It's like at 16 and you hit it. Nope. It's not activating it. Then it's at 12 km, like, at 10, and then it's telling, oh yeah, you wanted to boosh. Here's the boosh, right? And you're like, yeah, it's too late. So
just like doing that as soon as you decloak can be tough with timing too. Or like if the server doesn't take your boost, then you're gonna kill everyone.
Yeah, and honestly, so Alice had a different approach, and it was a similar approach, but he did it with MWDing booshes. So he MWD'd with the bombs. So the window where the bombs are in boosh range is just so much greater, so you have an easier time to time it, right?
We tried something similar with AB booshes as well.
You just coast it, right? You get up to speed and just like coast. So you're going with the bombs and you just coast the boosh.
But our thing wasn't so much that you warp the booshes in at range and then warp the bombers on top of them and then everyone aligns. Ours was like you actually have a small little like micro fleet which is anchored up. So like you have the 2 booshes from like 230 kilometers away, 250 kilometers away or so. Yeah, like little Stukas of bombers, yeah. And then you have like the bombers anchored up at 7.5 kilometers. And then as you're aligning in, those bombers are actually like 10 kilometers away. You launch the bombs, and then you basically entirely just boosh immediately. So once you, and then by the time that because obviously the distances, the relative velocities, kind of match up okay. You've got a lot, as you said, you've got a lot longer time to actually hit that off. But with MWDs though, I'd be worried that you'd always be too fast. With there's a much smaller time frame for you to get that.
You can throttle your speed to match the bombs if you really want to, though. Like, because bombs go 1250 per second. I know. I mean, it'd be rough.
You click once, and then if you click the wrong speed, it's kind of scuffed.
True that. And you can't exactly get up to speed before you bomb anyway, because you'll outrun your bombers. So yeah.
Yeah, that's why I want. Like, I don't know exactly how Alice did it. I only saw the result at times, and entirely, you know how it is, right? You miss a lot of things. So I don't know how exactly he did it. But he got better with it over time. That's all I know. And those big bomb runs, people miss what even happened, right? And before the show started, actually, we talked about it for just a second. Just like it was a known thing to do, right? To hit a fleet that lands on a gate. So the server is actually loaded with oh, wait a second, all these guys are taking damage. Let's, before they can jump, we're going to check if they're all alive. And during that calculation, you just hit them more and more, and then they die before the server says, okay, you're allowed to jump, right? That's basically what happens, right? And Sieku, you did that plenty of times, at least 3-4 times that I've seen it.
I know. I don't think I really introduced that tactic, but I think we certainly brought it to the forefront 2 weeks before that big bomb run in 3D, because we were hitting the Serbs on the 1DQ gate, kind of showing how that tie-dye mechanic works from 1DQ into 3D. Because if you put a fleet into 3D first, or any system first, then the second fleet's going to tie-dye, right? Kind of how that works on a non-reinforced node. So we wait for our fleets to load in first, and then we'd bomb the response fleet coming in on the gate, which very effective, but as you saw, very scalable.
Yep. But so what I thought was funny, right? Whenever you caught the
Serbs. I think
it was
someone
mostly
Serbs.
It was usually Serbs. I don't know why, but I only remember 2 times I saw it directly, and it was Serbs from Goons. And that
it was on the jump gate in 3D.
I forgot who it was. A Horde FC. I don't know if it was you, Chosshu, right?
It might have been me, mate. Yeah.
A Horde FC. Pinged out. Look at this. And I picked out the battle road. Sieku is a god, right? So it's
oh no, it wasn't me. I don't post that cringy
not
shit.
Knowing, not knowing though.
Don't post that shit. I'm not a god. Goodness.
But not knowing, I don't know, several weeks later or so when we do it, everyone was oh no, this is so dirty and stuff, right? It's Is
The
it
thing is,
though,
like
guys?
those Serbs, the Serbs that Goons ran were like very juicy targets for bombs because they had such
Yeah.
a small EM, like such a massive EM hole.
Serbs
It's
are
because they're off
so
speed. They're like
bombable.
3.5 a second, right? Like they
Yeah.
get the speed, you're not catching them. If you hit them on the jump gate, easy peasy. Like you can't
Yeah.
get away. Like I talked to Pap, like the FCs and like leadership, like as I was kind of starting like that gate bombing thing. I was like, y'all better be careful. This could be dangerous if this takes off.
Yeah, you know what? Serbs are not only bombable on EM. I wiped out Serb fleets with like expo bombs like plenty of
Yeah.
times because they just miss
they're
that
not
little
picky,
bit of
really.
speed too. They're just that much a little slower that it's a little easier to catch them actually, like on field and stuff. You know, but when it comes to Serbs, I'm always pretty confident that we can catch them sooner or later. Right? Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, you just gotta be
work out well.
patient. I mean, you can wait for like hours during a fleet and only do one bomb run, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's the sad part of bomber FCs, right? If there's any up and coming FCs that are like, I want to be the bomber expert for my group, you better be prepared for some ops where you just have your dude sit on a ping and you can't do anything. There's no opening. There's bubbles everywhere.
Yeah.
There's like, or like the friendly fleet that was supposed to be there and get the hostiles engaged, they never actually untether and get them engaged. And you're just sitting there waiting for something that, isn't happening.
We try to have a rule. Go ahead.
I think that's also why there are so few bomber FCs, because it's like, in a way, it's kind of unappreciated work because it's a lot of effort just to set things up and then essentially, as you say, you just wait there. And if you're newer to the thing, like it's obviously much less likely you're going to get kills out of it, obviously because you're going to be making mistakes or you're going to be slow to react and that sort of thing. And then it's also quite hard for you to kind of maintain, like have if you don't get results out of that, then it's hard for you to kind of get the numbers that you need for the next time, right? So it's
you can only blue ball your fleet so many times before they're like, just I'd rather be a mainline.
Yeah, you know what? I try to push our guys into just like having bomber alts, right? So they're in the main fleet, and especially in tie-dye, it's easy to manage a bomber on the side, right? People are like not very challenged anyway, and then you have like a bomber you can take care of too. And I think we got like to a certain amount of bombers, and we like got some work done. Obviously, I think most of those bombers in those big bombers were actually alts, right? So, and then you can make more effective use of the numbers you have, right? You have like 100 people, right? Now you have like 100 mainline ships plus 30 bombers, right? That's a solid combo.
Imagine if everyone had 120 mainline DPS ships and then 120 self-probing void bombing ships.
Dude, that would be fucking craziness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
then we get
same with toaster alts and shit, right?
Sorry, say again.
Same with toaster alts and all that stuff. Like if everyone has an alt and you can like manage them perfectly and they have like the perfect ship ready and stuff, dude, you could do so much like stuff. Yeah. But yeah. What do I have on the list? Yeah, was it fair play or not? I think we all agreed, right?
Sure it is.
The bombers though, it's like very well known how like it's the same set of rules.
There's no surprise that happened. Like the only surprise was the fact that it was like so successful, right? Like
yeah, what's interesting is that like these tick bombs, so in heavy tie-dye, tick bombs are quite hard to avoid. They're not really hard to avoid, but if you need to extract quickly, where things aren't going well and you've got that pressure to extract, you don't have a lot of time to set up people decloaking bombers and getting up your your defender missile screen ready to go and stuff, then it's quite quite strong. But you also see a lot of people that FC quite a lot, but then they also still fall for like really obvious tick bombs as well.
You know what though?
And I've actually seen you tick bomb horde fleet, maybe after the war is over or something. But stuff like this, stuff can be avoided quite easily. It's just that people that do these big fleets, and they just want kind of it to be a bit easier, and they want it, so they complain about that.
Well, it's complacency too. It's like after a big fleet, you get tired on the way home.
Exactly, I was about to say exactly that.
All it takes is all it takes is once. You can warp a dozen gates, and you warp once at 0, and you happen to get caught by bombers. Like
it's super easy. So like you're going home, right? And then oh shit, there's 20 in it in local. Maybe it's not a good idea to warp to the outgate at 0.
You think so?
Yeah.
That's why I have alts.
Yeah, we tried a couple sneaky things up in up in the drone lands area
Yeah,
when
yeah.
we had that fort and BRT and stuff, and I tried to
Yeah,
like
I think I
capitalize
saw.
on that a little bit.
Yeah, I
But
think that's what
man,
I'm
it's
talking about.
tough on timing. But it was fun to set that up and try to
Yeah,
catch you guys. But obviously,
but it's also
if you fail the first time, then you missed your chance basically, and everyone's like very aware.
yeah.
It's like wide awake. Okay, this is happening, so be careful. But yeah,
It's also a bit of a shame though that this has become, I'd say, like the state of bombing in the sense that it's much harder now to pull off an on-grid bomb, but partially due to formations, but also partially due to like the lack of DPS coming out of these bombs. Sorry, not lack of volley damage coming out of the bombs now. So I think it's a bit of a shame that a lot of bombing now is just tick bombing on outgates and not so much actual
yeah,
like
inside.
strategic bombing
That's a
during
symptom
fight.
of
Yeah,
the situation, though. It's like when you have nothing but like when most
yeah,
of your
sure, of
fights are
course. Yeah,
hacks and they're all speedy and
yeah.
defenders and ADCs and how many anti-bomber tactics do you have
It's
out right now? It's
yeah,
tough.
So
it's hard. Like obviously, like if everyone switches to Feroxes, which are a gold mine for bombing FCs, right?
Oh,
Then
switch to caracals
that's
for
going
me,
to be
please. Thanks.
that would be oppressive,
characters are
right?
even better. That's true.
So I think there's like some kind of balance that needs to be made. Like right now, bombing is in a very bad place for sure.
So how
But it's
do you think you could fix it?
yeah, I'm
Yeah, we
not sure,
talked
man.
about it earlier, right? Like, well, I
Yeah,
mean, changing the hack meta slightly would help a lot. Either by we talked earlier about like reducing the cap stability just to make it harder to judge, or like increasing the cap of an ADC or something would be like really helpful. But
yeah. Other things are like I don't know, making the defender missile lock. You have to lock the bomb first, or I don't know, because this dumb fire defender missiles isn't I think in itself is quite dumb.
we talked about it last time. Like we had a
Yeah. Oh yeah, we
discussion
did.
about
Yeah.
like increasing like the cooldown or something to like make it so it's not just every time it comes up you see a bomb you fire,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah. Chari is asking in Twitch chat to mention the bomb deployment skill, but we talked about that last time as well.
Oh yeah. No, I'll go over that. That's my pet project. I hate
Yeah.
that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bomb deployment skill does not apply past level 1 to your bomb cooldown. It should decrease the cooldown, and if it actually applied, it would decrease the cooldown below defender launchers, and that'd be fantastic. But at the moment,
Yeah.
it only applies the one skill, 1% reduction. That's it.
Also, you get
That's weird, right?
you get more volley damage from 7 bombers with bomb covers level 4 than you do with 6 bombers
Shut
with
up.
cover level 5.
You.
Like,
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
no
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
All this
And then
stupid shit.
void bombs, they deal more damage to damage bombs than damage bombs do, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
It's
22 versus
Actually,
13.
one of the things that I suggested in Pappy actually was when all these when we're having to go into 3D and extract through that gate all the fucking
just
time.
throw void bombs everywhere.
Yeah. No, like set up and not with void bombs, but with lock breakers. And then just because they do
Oh,
what
lock
is
breakers. Right.
yeah,
Because
and
they
then
don't void anyone out. They're just lock.
yeah, exactly,
Right.
yeah. So
That
then
makes
like I was
sense.
suggesting that as like having that set up in like if you want to extract, you just
But
let the bomber FC to reload lock breakers, and then
you
just
could
launch
just
them.
do, you could just do, if you are, so the situation is as follows, right? All of Papi is like, okay, objective, objective is done, let's get home. They all get on the gate, orbit the gate at like, let's say 20 to be safe, right? And then there's this moment, okay, now it's
Unsafe.
time. Now it's, 20 on a big gate is safe, on a small
Yeah, I
gate
guess
it's not
that's
safe, right? And
Yeah.
it's a big gate.
Constellation gate, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So everyone is like in a safe distance still, and everyone is waiting for the command to get on the gate and get the fuck out. Why not have your bomber wing, Sieku, warp down to 0 on the gate, then orbit, all the bombers at 500, and then tell everyone, okay, everyone reapproach or approach the gate, jump out.
Yeah.
And the second they all approach and it's visibly clear, and they kind of reach the gate, you just bomb in all directions, right?
Yeah.
Then any bomber
The other
that decloaks at
go ahead.
range would get hit by it, right? So you would wipe out all these bombers. Or if not, then there's enough time for the main fleet to get out. It would be one way to do it, I guess.
The lock breaker thing was
Alternatively, you could just do fire an off damage bomb type like thermal, fire 3 of them to cover your extract. You're not going to kill your fleet, and you're going to kill all the
Dude.
enemy damage bombs.
Can you imagine that complaint you'd get from command chat?
Yeah, I know. But it could work, and we were ready to do that, but yeah, no, we never ended up trying.
But with the lock breakers though, they travel the same speed as a void bomb.
That's true. Yeah.
So that's why I suggested them, because you could just have your bombers orbit at 30, and then
that's also another thing I think how bombers could get a little bit of their strength back if you could adjust the range and the speed, right?
Yes, please.
So if you only throw the bomb like let's say 20 km far, they're way faster, So then suddenly you can adjust. Like if there was like, I don't know, they probably would do it with scripts, which is like, not the greatest solution, right? Doesn't feel quite right, but and then
I'd
30
still take
km
it.
is
I'd take
this,
anything.
and then you could also bomb at 45 km, but then they're way slower, right? And you see them coming for ages, right? So, I kind of feel like, I don't know, that could be one way to,
I'd be
give
cool
them
if they made
something.
like a rig or something
I
as
would
well.
probably
Like
say it
just
would be the other
like,
way around, right? Like the
well,
further
what
out
about
you
making
wait,
like
the
a
faster it
bombing rig?
goes.
Like a
Well,
bombing
extra
rig that
bomb
increases
speed.
like decrease the bomb flight time or increases the bomb flight time would be really cool.
Yeah.
Or range or whatever, like increases your bomb range by 20% or whatever the rig would be.
Yeah.
Would be
Or
like a
you,
really interesting mechanic.
Yeah. Also, maybe more utility bombs could be interesting, like a different spread of different. I'm not sure. Like the Twitch chat is this guy suggesting bubble bombs. I'm not sure how you feel about those.
Once upon a
okay, but
time,
bubble
there was
bomb. I don't know.
like during the AT when they introduced the webbing covert ops frigate or something, they added like a web bomb to one of the like a virtuoso or something for a little bit. I was so excited when I saw that whole bonus, and then they never did anything with it.
You know what I also always thought? Like he says bubble bombs, right? So when it came to dictors, I always thought it's an interdiction sphere launcher. It should literally launch it somewhere.
Yeah.
So it should be
That's what
it should be the whole
like an aim.
like
Honestly, like I think that'd be really cool to
like
have
a
that as an
DD
like an
aim.
aim skill. Yeah, like
Yeah,
like a
exactly.
yeah,
Like you
like
aim a
What
DD
about
and
taking
stuff,
surgical
right?
warp probes? Like that's a thing in
Yeah.
game that all it does is increase the time by a minute and decrease the radius. But like they could totally change those to make it like a fireable module. Like
True.
it's already there. It just requires some different change,
Also,
right?
that you have to like click like a super DD or something, right?
Projector.
Not, yeah, you know what
I mean, that'd also be cool if they just fired like 10k into the front line. But yeah, it'd be really cool if you could name it.
What about that for bombs?
Oh.
Now you have a bomb fleet.
Oh,
you don't need this
me?
setup.
Stop,
all right.
stop, Pando.
I'm just gonna like let me formulate it for everyone to understand. So now you have a bomber fleet that you don't need an extreme setup for, because you can just warp them in from any angle because they have to aim. Now you put skill into the bomber pilots though, right? Now you trust on people to aim, and then a lot of times, especially hack meta, they have to aim quickly, right? If you take 10 seconds, that's too late. 10 seconds, units are going to be literally 25 km further away out of bomb range, right? So, that
I would love anything that increases the skill cap of bombers, like the player skill. That'd be so cool.
That'll open so many interesting plays as well.
And it'd be difficult, it'd be challenging too. So it'd be something you have to practice and get good at. So it wouldn't be just like anything you could pick up. So it'd be a hugely rewarding thing. That'd be cool.
I think that would maybe make it more like make more bomb runs possible in fight, first of all, right? Because that's a big issue right now. Let's be honest. A lot of times you land in a bubble and then you have to align into the bubble to bomb the targets. Then you're in the bubble, you have to align out. You're gonna die anyway, right? Then the bomb run, a lot of it gets defended. Units are way too fast, especially in tight. It's hard to like so many problems, right? But then you could warp, like if you have a decent warp in, boom, you can warp to him, aim, and then line out and warp, right?
Yeah, I think making a skill shot is a really good way to do it actually, because it's a skill shot, so it's based on how good your pilots are as well. Like
you can like do a range, like make it within like even within 30 or like 40 or whatever, like give it a high end cap range of like whatever your range you want is. But yeah, that'd be really cool.
I like that idea.
There's nobody poking holes on it in thingy chat yet? Which chat?
Not yet. They're just.
Well, I mean, the immediate problem would be like
outside
of. I mean, it'd be cool, but like outside of bombs, like for like Kiki Stuka fleets, could be like a bit challenging, but a bit overpowered.
It's gonna be fine.
Can you imagine Kiki Stuka killing a Rourke and like firing bombs behind you at the chasing fleet? That'd be cool as hell, but a little bit overpowered.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think it would increase the capability of a Kiki Stuka fleet in general, right? So if we're talking about a plain Stuka fleet, so you have a couple command destroyers and res bombers, that's a different story. They would be stronger, but they're not that strong anyway, because you can only have so many bombers on that fleet anyway, right?
It'd be also interesting because it's a skill level. thing, a lot of people fuck it up. So can you imagine, dude? Like, even if you had like just out of 200 bombers, you just have 5 that launch the bomb in the wrong direction, and then go
I'd be
ahead of
cool
you
with that
instead
though.
of,
Like that's the risk you
you know.
take. Like
But
sounds good,
that's
man.
it, right? That's good. Like
That's one
that's
of
you
the
could
blessings.
literally wipe yourself out, which is
That's one of the
good.
blessings
I
of the
actually remember.
AV.
So
Because you're
my
not
first
fast
bomb.
enough to whip
You
yourself out.
remember what? You remember when bombs used to be if you launched them at
Yeah, you didn't
at 0
move.
speed.
Doom portaling.
Yeah,
I love
and
that, man.
you just yeah. So back when I was a complete noob, I actually joined the GigX bombing fleet, and like, I didn't know anything really much about the game back then. And I joined. Yeah, we're doing bombers, and then basically I had my hotkey set to like F8 or something, worst hotkey ever. But this is back when, if
F1
you
is
press.
worse.
Yeah, true. This is back when if you weren't moving, you press the bomb launcher.
Yeah.
It would just explode in the radius around you, so it wouldn't actually travel, right? So like Gigix kept saying like, who the fuck is bombing our fleet? Who keeps bombing our fleet? And obviously it was me, because like every time I would key up to say something, like I'd be launching a bomb at their fleet, dude. Yeah.
Oh my god.
But that's kind of funny, because like, if you do that in a combat situation, that actually kind of could create some really interesting dynamics on grid, right?
Yeah.
it's
Well,
You
like,
mean-
potentially
we
very
first did
powerful,
that.
but also potentially you can completely wipe your own fleet doing the same thing, right? So,
Yeah, for those who don't who are not aware, after a gate jump or a sino jump or whatever jump, right? You used to, like, your ship is standing still and it doesn't have an alignment, but for the bomb to fly, it needs an alignment. So back then, the bomb would just not fly. It would just sit there, right? And then explode after the flight time is over. So
There were
that's
such
what
interesting
people
tactics.
did then.
Well, like I was when you could still do that, where the bombs wouldn't travel. We were sinoing our bombers between the Rourke and X-Cabs, just putting them as soon as they load grid, they just bomb and they just wouldn't
Yeah.
move. And pulling the X-Cabs back would put them through the bombs, and we kill X-Cabs that way.
What we used to do is, so years, I don't even know how long ago, we were staged in Vienna and we were fighting goons of all people. And they were like flying around in like little camper setups, like a Macariel and a couple guys with like sabers, like plenty of sabers. That's what they always had, right? So what we would always do is like jump in a bomber, and then obviously you're in a saber. A bomber is a snack for you, right? But you would just let your cloak run out and then spam the bomb launcher. So what happens then is the bomb is just sitting there and the saber's burning in to decloak you, right? So he burns into your bomb and just explodes and you just fucking warp off. So I love doing that to them. It was so funny. But yeah.
Oh,
That's
that would
like
be a
one of
dream.
those funny tricks you could do with this kind of mechanic. I don't know why they removed it. It wasn't that much of an issue, I thought.
Their justification at the time was new players kept on killing themselves or something. I was like, what? You're not gonna kill yourself unless you don't move, turn on your prom on and bomb yourself or something. Like, surely
Hello.
it wasn't that big a deal.
Like, and one bomb.
One bomb
usually,
isn't gonna kill you.
Exactly, unless you're MWDing, right?
Yeah.
So I never thought that was an issue, but you know.
Yeah,
Like a naked bomber has like 30 sig or something. Like,
I would love this skill shot for bombs. That would be fantastic. That'd be so
I think
cool.
so too. I think so too. But you know, maybe one day.
Yeah.
What about Dictus though? The surgical bubbles? I thought that was actually interesting. Yeah, maybe just on surgical bubbles that would make sense. On normal bubbles, I don't know. It's probably just.
I think it'd be good to have the
Because, like-
option, because I like the idea of not like putting them where I am. Like, that's really helpful at times. But
Well,
it'd be cool to have the option.
There's like, I don't know. I think it would have to be balanced quite well, because right now, obviously, if you're looking to extract, right? Let's say you jump through a gate and you're trying to run away from a bigger blob, right? It's with those surgical bombs, it could be potentially very easy for the chasing fleet then to just launch bombs so it's not surgical bombs, surgical interdiction. Just launch bubbles ahead of you. Because right now the sabers have to burn into you, and then
Always
you
depends
can
on the
kill them.
range, right? Like what range are we
Yeah.
talking? It's always in the details too, right?
So like if you made them too
I mean,
long,
any saber burning at you, you're just gonna get shot like normal. So
yeah,
I
but
don't know.
they could always launch a dictator.
Yeah,
a
but
bubble, and obviously
surely the
if it
range
doesn't-
wouldn't be more than like 30k or something, though, right? Like, you have to
even 30k,
manage
I think
it,
would be quite dangerous though, because right, because they have to burn that 30k, right, to get most of the fleet, but they could just decloak, launch
I mean,
the
you
thing.
like I said, it's in the details. So in my mind, I thought it's like 50 km, but then also it has the delay like it does with the web bubble thing, right? So you launch it, then it lands, and then 1, 2, 3, and then it goes up. So there's a little bit of a delay, and then they're only 10 km in range. So it's like, is it as powerful? Like, yeah, it's probably strong, right? If you have a
Or I
lot of them,
mean,
especially, right? If you have the
Or
numbers.
it's like reduce the actual ammo count that you have if you're loading these scripts as well, so they can do it once maybe or something like that. So they can't do it 3 times. That could be an interesting.
Or like just a cooldown, right?
Yeah.
Give them 3, but there's like 20 seconds in between.
you could also just make a different module that functions like that might be easier to balance. They just make a different, like an entirely new module that just functions similarly to a Super's burst projector or whatever, just as a high slot that has different like requirements or whatever.
And Unseen also says, like, as range goes up, the time increases. Yeah, that's kind of what you would wish, but I think we're already talking what's in the realm of possibility. We're not gonna get like a what do you call it, a thing to adjust it like that on the fly, right? It all works with scripts and all that stuff. So I'm guessing code-wise, it's just not in the cards unless they put in significant amount of dev time, which they're probably not willing to do for a minor thing like this. So it's like, I think, yes, it would be the more, the better solution, but is it a realistic one? I probably say no.
Yeah, I mean, do I expect these changes to happen? No. Would it be really cool if they did? Yeah.
Well, I think it's important that we still discuss them, right? Obviously, because
yeah,
there might
introduce
be
the
people
ideas.
working.
I mean, yeah.
People working at CCP, the developers watching these kind of shows anyway, so they kind of need to know what people like us are thinking in order to kind of get an informed decision, because they can't just take a small narrow viewpoint, right, on these kind of things.
I really like the idea of increasing skill cap things. Like, so it just makes the game so much more dynamic and like challenging, but interesting.
Yep. That's not only to give more options to the guys that are skilled, but it gives more options to the guys that are not skilled to fuck up, right? Super important.
Yeah, I think that's the
which I love that. Yeah, like that should happen absolutely. Like allow people to make mistakes. That's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of times the only reason we engage other fleets is because we think these guys are probably going to make a certain mistake, or maybe not even a certain mistake. Maybe you feel comfortable enough to drag the fight out long enough till they would make a mistake you can really capitalize on,
Definitely.
On larger scale, less so, right? It's more numbers based, but
well, I think on some level, like most of the more like longer term FCs kind of have mostly an idea of how a fight's going to take place. The only variable is pilot skill or mistakes, right?
Yep. Like, how used are your guys to that exact doctrine you're flying and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, because like all it takes is a few people. Because like I usually run really tight comps where it's like you're right at the edge. I love that kind of play style where it's like if you lose like 2 ships and you're at that edge and you're gonna start breaking. Like I love that stuff. I wish we'd have more like fights and skills like that.
Yeah, I mean, I try to do exactly that with the doctrines at the moment. The thing is to project a fleet into hostile space. To do that, you can't really
and knock it over escalated.
Yeah, you can't go really over 25. You want to filament, you want to get through wormholes. Normal wormholes, like, it takes too much effort to get a connection anywhere worthy, really, right? So you have to take drifter wormholes, and then you're pretty limited. Like 675 mil, that's one way. So you kind of halve that if you want to get home, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's very, very limited what you're working with. And then what fleets do you encounter right now in space? Like, it's a shit ton of mutants. It's basically what it
definitely.
is, right?
Plus you put all that effort into it, and if you even get a fight in the first place too, right?
It's fucking tough. That's why very few people are doing it right now, right? Let's be honest. Like, who is going out right now trying to pick fights in someone else's space? Like, fights? Nobody. Like, everyone hunts each other a little bit, right? But then hit something, kill it, and get away, right? That's basically the name of the game. Nobody's really looking for fights. So that's one of the reasons you can't project enough power into hostile space. And, it's just what it is. Bring the Onyx fleets. What are these? Or
the Onyx,
devoters.
back when you could do the old mass reduction.
Yeah,
thing, right?
You can actually. That's true. Yeah.
There was a guy in CO2 that used to do that a lot. What was his name? Alok. He had these Onyx fleets. I'm not sure who did this like first. Maybe it was one of you guys. I'm not sure, but
no.
Then you can fit 100 Onyxes through a drifter hole because they go down to 4 mil mass or something like that.
Yeah.
So they were pretty cool.
Like your Gila fleet
this
versus
was like
Bjorn.
yeah,
I
this
wiped
was
the
years
Gila
ago,
fleet
like
yesterday.
4 or 5 years ago now, that he was doing this. Actually, I learned about drifters through this guy, Alok Konam. I think it's a Romanian guy. He's not playing anymore, unfortunately, but he had some really cool ideas.
Yeah.
All right, I got FC duties. Thanks for having me, but
All right, is
I
your
gotta go
fathers are
leave
getting
Pete.
hit?
Cheers, man.
All
They're
right.
getting no, everything's getting formed up. So I'm gonna take off, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
See ya.
Godspeed.
And then yeah, Dr. Snooze Goose, the Gila fleet yesterday. Like, yeah, the thing is, right? If you like, I had 30 dudes in my fleet, in mostly Gilas. We already lost our Valkyries against Horde, right? I think it was Horde at least, and they were in Wolves, AC Wolves, and 100
Oh
of
yeah,
them.
yeah.
So
yeah.
my idea was actually, so we were sitting in the wormhole. And I was waiting for Bjorn to get engaged by a fraternity blob. They bring a bunch of people. It's in their own space and their jumper is getting hit. So I expected a massive fleet, right? And I was 4 jumps out from Bjorn. And then they come in and they only bring like a bunch of characters, but not a whole lot. So what happened was Bjorn killed those characters way too fast before we got there. And then we sit next door and was like, and now what? Like, what am I supposed to do with my guys now, right? It's like, I promised them some fun. So I jumped in and I was like, fuck it, guys. It's going to be fucking tough, but like, let's have a look, right? And it's the same thing like I talked earlier. I was kind of hoping for him to make some mistakes, certain mistakes that could have opened that fight up for us. But without the Valkyries and, it was just so tough
So
to
I
crack
didn't
these.
see this fight. What was it? You were in Gila's 25-man Gila
Yeah,
fleet.
roundabout. And he
Bjorn
was like
in
100 like wolves
100
with a
harpies.
couple. No, wolves actually.
Oh, wolves, sorry.
AC
wolves.
wolves.
Right. Jesus.
Yeah.
Oof.
And then yeah, so I went in. I was like, let's see how this works out, right? I mean, the tank on the Gilas, you probably know, it's a chunky tank, right? So if they're pre-logged and everyone's on board and they don't apply perfect damage, which they didn't because they had barrage loaded at first, I felt like, okay, if I have enough time to work, I can maybe reduce the DPS in time to then trade and then stabilize at some point and then potentially win the fight. I knew the chances are going to be slim, but I was like, if I wipe a fleet though, might as well be Bjorn.
Also, I guess the issue with Gilas though in that case is that because the wolves are so fast that you've got that little bit of time for the drones to actually catch up to the
It is a
next
big
primary
issue,
as well.
yeah. I think also I did a horrible job telling our guys. We had mostly Gilas. We also had 3 curses. We had a Hick and we had a Hugin, right? So I told the Hugin, dude, that anchor needs to be webbed at all times. So my drones don't have to travel back and forth. You know what it is. But I didn't tell the Hick to scram that anchor. I didn't tell the curses to just keep the newts on that anchor, so he just actually is slowed down. And then the Hugin had problems because he got damped and jammed and all that stuff. So the anchor was actually way faster than I wanted it to be. But I wiped the entire fleet, all of them. Like everyone died. It's like in the middle of it, I was like, guys, you're all gonna die here, right? It's like,
I have it. It's fine, man. Like, thing is, like, I don't think you can really be like, especially when you get blobbed. Like, you can't really be in a situation where, look, guys, you had a plan. Maybe it might not have been the best plan, but there was a plan.
yeah, there was a plan. There was a plan. But, I mean, I didn't get blobbed. I got myself blobbed, right? Like I voluntarily blobbed myself there. But like I said, if I whelp a fleet, it might as well be against Bjorn, right? Because Bjorn is taking out fleets, and he's not scared of whelping a fleet for like everyone's entertainment. And he does make plays, and he's a good FC too, right? So I kind of knew the chance of him making certain mistakes, like taking too much time, staying at range, which is weird. Some people do that with Munons and stuff against the Gilas. Like, why would you do that, right? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But some people.
It's probably quite interesting as well, like, these NPSI fleet, especially from beyond B stuff, like you kind of expect, it's an NPSI fleet, it's going to be full of noobs, right? But
these guys are a lot of experienced guys.
These guys are well trained,
And I tell you what, I could tell that yesterday too. For example, so I only had certain drone sets left, right? So I put out Vespers first. It's kinetic. They're not too slow, but they're pretty slow though, right? But I felt like, okay, if we get those Vespers onto them, at least they hit the hole and I can potentially crack those wolves. So I sent Vespers after him. Then he takes range, kills some drones. I was like, fuck. So we call in drones again, right? And then I put out infiltrators because that's the only full set we still had left, because it wasn't all wolves. Yeah, but it wasn't all wolves. So I decided, okay, let's put out infiltrators, and then I kill like everything that's not a wolf, basically. And then I killed a bunch, like pow pow pow. They went down pretty fast. And then there were certain people though, like there was a Bifrost. It's not a crazy EM resist on a Bifrost, so I called a Bifrost primary, and he just booshed a bunch of drones off. And and then there was a Dicta.
Big brain play.
Yeah. And then there was a Dicta. I think it was a flycatcher. I sent and he fucking heated and burned away from those drones, and we lost so much time, right? And
yeah,
I didn't have any time,
right? Like people feathering, like when you're trying to shoot them, especially if you're not in Alpha Doctrine, like with dealers and stuff. So it's a bit yikes.
Yeah, and also that flycatcher, right? I'm aware of that situation. Obviously, I've been flying Gilas for a while. The flycatcher was just chilling there, right? So, but the second I got him locked, he fucking, zoomed off. It's I knew what you were doing. It's like, do a little shift.
That's a problem though, like because you don't have instantly applied. You don't have an instant applied DPS. It's so hard with the Gilas to in this situation when you're going against really fast things, right? You got to be on point with that, but it's at some point it kind of just stops breaking, because there's like maybe like a 1 KMS differential between a wolf and like
the drones.
Yeah, the drones. So
yeah,
like relatively speaking, those drones are actually quite slow compared to those.
Yeah, I think Valkyries were just like would have been the choice, but you guys had all Valkyries because you blobbed us with mutants, you dirty blobbers.
Sorry, man. Yeah, wasn't me.
And we had to leave them outside the ESS. But then also, that was weird to me, right? So I show up with those 30 dudes in Gilas, and you guys formed a big fucking mutant fleet. It's like 70. And then also the timing. Dude, I was sitting on the Keepstar, watching the Keepstar to see when you guys are warping over or undocking. But then I was like, is the drifter wall actually halved? So I warp over my scout to quickly check it. In that time, you guys undock and warp, and I didn't realize, right? So I warped back, and I was like, they're warped. I was like, what? So I was way too close to the beacon at the time you guys landed. I was like, fuck. My plan was to go into the ESS in the beginning, like if it's too many, right? And then obviously you have some ramjacks and stuff, so it took me some time, and we lost some dudes on the way there, and that's why we lost the Valkyries outside the ESS. But then also you had like 70 mutants. Like I don't know who the FC was actually, but there was like 70 mutants or so. And we were like, 30 dudes total. Maybe 10 Gilas and a couple curses and stuff, and they didn't follow. I was like, man, that's kind of sad.
I suppose it's one of the real benefits of the ESS is that you can use them to kind of at least mitigate the numbers disadvantage.
Yeah, I know, but at the same time, like, what were our chances of survival there? Even inside the ESS, by the Gilas with AB, come on, that's like 600 meters per second.
All I'm saying is that would have given me a little bit more time just to, to extract, essentially, just to maybe get some opportune moments of like opportune targets of
stuff, but we would have
that close. But
we would have died inside too, to be quite honest, because I fucked the timing up, right? The plan was to get in and then bubble them, get in that time where people don't get in. I can pull some range, and then even still, then we would still be in mutant range.
Yeah.
But I thought it just shows like the overall mindset in EVE right now is like hell dunks or blue balls. It is kind of still the name of the game when it comes to your own space, especially, right? And I can't blame anyone for it, but I can't deny I'm kind of not bad too. Right?
Yeah. So from my perspective as well, like I was before the war started, I was doing a lot of stuff in Imperium space, and in my mind, at least, this probably isn't true, but in my mind, one of the reasons why the war started was because of this hell dunks or blue balls attitude that the Imperium had. Not maybe not in it, but especially goons.
It certainly didn't help, right?
You show it with like a small 10-man frigate gang, and then you get smart bombed on the gate by a Titan or something. Like something ridiculous that happened, and this happened all the time. And that's actually why DPCI, remember back in the day, Delve Pest Controlling. It was the stuff with Marshy and
yeah.
That's why actually that started, because they looked at all this crazy shit happening in Delve and like, okay, let's maybe see what we can do about it, and that kind of evolved from there. But I think you're right. Like, yeah, it's definitely. I'm not sure if this is like looking back on my history V with tinted glasses or not. But yeah, I mean, especially post-war, I think it might have, with how the war ended and stuff, it might have maybe changed a little bit with how people approach essentially what are content fleets, right? Not serious invasions of looking to take over an IHOP or kill a Antiplex or whatever. Maybe this is like the post-war kind of fallout, I guess. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Are you happy the war's over? You are, right?
I am very happy the war is over. Yeah, I was actually, yeah. I mean, I was talking to goblins a lot. Probably 2 months, 3 months before the war actually officially finished. Kind of trying to give my opinion on like the state of the current the current like the war effort basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like me and all of my guys in my corp were very, very happy that the thing's over, just so we can focus on doing stuff that we actually enjoy. Because obviously, like for us, going into a hell camp system and essentially just dying to a bunch of fighters on the gate, or dying to tick bombs on the outgate, that wasn't fun and engaging content for anyone.
Wait a second. I mean, the tick
right?
bombs were super fun, all right?
For you, yeah. But for the guys who actually leave the system, they're not. But yeah.
Yeah, it must have been frustrating. Like then
I mean, would you
the
say
whole M2 situation too, right? It obviously
actually like M2, like the actual fight itself was obviously like that was a big blunder from our side. But once we got over
you
that
remember
kind of,
one sec, I'm gonna nail you onto this now.
go on.
You remember the first timer? And now that I'm saying it, I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure it was you, but we had a discussion of like who won the first timer. You remember that? I'm pretty sure it was you.
Maybe.
And we had this long so the next. I mean, so you guys logged off on that spot, right? And then everything was leading up to the big second timer.
Yeah.
And I remember having that discussion, and I'm pretty sure it was you. Like who won that timer? Because it wasn't as clear as people might think right now. Like now, everyone's like, okay, they logged off there, obviously, right? And I wasn't 100% sure on it either, right? But I was always saying like, if you log off before, like if you log off and you don't log in right after downtime, most likely you lost the timer, right? Because but I thought it was funny that there was like, discussion going on, like who actually won this fight. Like, yeah, like some side lost 2 extra titans or so, right? But that was minimal. Like, who cares? And then, but it felt like our titan killing pace was going up.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say like now, obviously. Also, it's hard to say because the committing those titans on grid in the way that we did was obviously just a bit of a clusterfuck.
But how did that mistake come about anyway, right? It was just
I'm not entirely sure. Like I wasn't involved in the this stuff on the actual committal. I was actually I actually bought a Titan an hour before we committed. I bought an avatar, a fresh avatar, straight out of the oven. I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna go in with this and then kill some goons or whatever. And then I was looking on grid with one of my scepters just to kind of get an idea of what was going on, and then I saw the Sana go up in front of all those into that fighter swarm. I was like, okay, that's a bit concerning. And then the call was made.
It's a weird spot to load the Sana, yeah.
Yeah. And then the call was made, and then we obviously went in, and then my client didn't even load, so I died in system, but I was actually in R1 with my tune still, and it was just a mess. I mean, I would have, but it's hard. It's quite. From what I understand, is that the insigner, one of the main insigners, actually decloaked before he should have done, and that gave you guys an opportunity to see. Okay, they're gonna go in here. Personally, I wouldn't have gone in that direct. I would have kind of maybe taken a safer play, gone in on the Fortizar, maybe tried to use a subcap advantage to clear a spot for us to actually get the Titans on grid. But again, like it's quite risky, when in any scenario, like coming up with a better play than what we did. Obviously, it didn't go well what we did, but coming with something that would have worked better while also then securing the time was also quite challenging.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually don't remember exactly why we sent those fighters up there. And I think I wasn't. So the thing was, it was right after Christmas, right? So I just got home after Christmas for the first timer, and I actually logged off for the first timer. Like it was just about to kick off, and I was like, this is not happening. I logged off. Honestly, that's what happened, right? And for the second timer, I found myself. I wasn't even on Gooncom's communicating, so I don't know for sure. But there wasn't a coincidence, though, right? That the fighter bombers were all on that spot. Like someone knew, right? Someone knew, and I was sitting there thinking, wait a second, why are they sending the fighter bombers already up there? Because I wasn't involved in the planning of that fight anyway, beside like some like bush play we wanted to do. But I expected you guys to jump onto the fort, be it fucking chaos, whatever, right? Jump onto the fort and then warp over.
That's what I was hoping we would do.
And I thought the time was too short. And I was like, why are they sending an hour before, or like I think at the time was like 2 hours before, sending fighters above the keepstar? Like, I kind of knew there was something up, but I was just waiting there patiently if like I was called in to make some weird play. But I wasn't, because everything just fucking exploded and stuff. But,
I
think the timing thing was a weird one.
Yeah, like as I said, I wasn't like involved in the planning at all. Like, this isn't what I've been doing in the war anyway.
I guess we're both speculating 90%.
Yeah. Like I don't know exactly what went on, but again, like as I say, it's quite hard to actually make the right call, because even if you went on the Fortizar, that's obviously the much more passive choice and the safe choice, the very safe choice. But then you've got the problem of how do you actually get on grid, because then you're being screened by fucked in the bubbles. As well, so actually clearing the spot that you actually need to in order to clay, because the issue is as well with
you could
Pappy,
still go above the keepstar though, if that's really what you wanted.
One issue with Pappy is it's not like a single command structure where you've got most of your Titans and Supers in a single command structure, right? You've got multiple alliances, some of which are language blocked because they're either Russian or Chinese, and they've all got to be communicated like in the same in the same way, right? So it's a little bit harder from the Pappy side to actually to relay commands, right?
I'm gonna say, if this is the all-ending kind of fight, it's very much possible to force your Titans to land in certain spots. All you have to do is prep a shit ton of dictors, a shit ton of bookmarks, right? The warp to zero spot trick, right? We kind of showed that trick to everyone. You could have used that to get on the exact spots at the exact time you need it, technically, right?
Well, yeah, technically. I'm not sure how well that would work in practice with a full Titan fleet.
Yeah, I mean,
or the way they want to risk, warping everyone over, and then sometimes maybe landing at the wrong position.
Yeah, but again, what's the wrong position then? So worst case, the wrong position is 500 km behind. But everyone would land on that spot with the wrong position. So you would have like a dread bomb ready to go and save those guys, or kill the dread bomb that's coming in for them. So like you could plan for that eventually too. But I would just argue that like I think the prep was quite there, right? And then the decision making was like under pressure, and then I think people lost track of the time. And the time was just running out. An hour before was just no time for any of the plans to work. So, that's the only explanation I have, actually.
Yeah.
And it happens sometimes. And sometimes it happens in the biggest fights ever. So, it is what it is. Yeah. It's kind of funny how it all worked out, though, right? Like, I'm not too mad about it. Like, wouldn't it be kind of weird? Like, let's say this fight kicks off, and one side completely wins. That would actually, honestly, that's
literally a worst case scenario for the game.
Wouldn't it be?
That's actually it's actually very. So a lot of guys in both our side and probably your side were very annoyed at this big, because obviously it was somehow hyped that there would be a big war-ending fight, right? And I was actually cautioning my guys, like, look, like, if this goes bad either way for one side or the other, this is actually really bad for the game. So it's probably a better thing that we actually do extract now and leave like the powers a little bit more equalized. Because if we win, it would be unlikely, obviously, given that how hard it is to get into that constellation. But if that's the case, we win. Pappy then breaks up post-war because obviously it's a collection of alliances. It's not going to maintain. It's not going to be a blue donut forever. But then the goons are destroyed. There's no real
Don't
like.
say that. Don't say that. I mean, whenever Imperium is gonna attack anyone who was in Papi before, really, one of the big players, Papi is gonna be a thing again, right? It's like I think everyone's aware of that.
Well, but that's because it's goons, right? That's the issue. Like,
Yeah.
it's not because
But who else would do it?
if someone else attacks, like, I don't know, like if Fraternity goes to war with AOM, right, which is essentially happening. It's not like Pappy are going to get involved on Fraternity's side, right? It's unlikely that's going to happen. But it's the main issue is it's a numbers game, right? If goons go to war with XIX or go to war with Fraternity, those single alliances do not have the strength to stop them getting steamrolled by goons because they just lack numbers. And that's why you might see, like, if goons go to war with anyone, you will find that people will ally up and then form a defense because that's the only way that they can have a chance. So like the whole reason behind, and that's actually that annoyed me a little bit about the narrative during the war, was that goons were somehow outmanned and outgunned, which isn't really true. So they were outmanned and outgunned in subcat numbers, but in terms of supers and titans, actually the numbers were very, very equal. And that's
funny though. It's funny though.
That's what's that?
So you're right. I 100% agree. It was kind of the whole narrative thing is interesting, right? Like, what other game has this kind of stuff? Like, this is fucking hilarious. There's like two fucking space lords like trying to manipulate their own guys and the enemies at the same time to think certain things and be either boosted in morale or like whatever, right? This is like already like, who else has a game like that? But then the narrative was that yes, we are, I mean, on a daily basis, for example, in Fountain, like how are we gonna hold Fountain when you guys can like casually form 1,000 dudes? You just fucking blow the horn of Horde horn, you blow the Horde on and then boom, 1,000 dudes flood the gates in Fountain. We couldn't like, for a week, maybe for 2, maybe for 3.
Yeah, that's why it's got the floodplains, man.
Yeah, exactly. So, but then also the narrative was, we are outgunned and outnumbered, which kind of is weird. How would that boost our morale? But then every victory is just so much better, right? And we had to squeeze everything out of every victory, really, to keep everyone like hyped. But then also the morale is like the Titan numbers. That's where it switched, right? And we're like, well, yeah, Titan number wise, we actually, we have a couple Titans over you guys, right?
Yep.
But then you guys, like Pickles and so on, we're like pushing we're moving 1,000 Titans, implying we have the Titan numbers over you guys. So it's like, it's complete.
I'm not sure where that came from, mate.
but I thought that was so funny, right? That everyone's like, we are outnumbered. No, you guys are outnumbered. It's like,
mate, like
complete opposite.
Reading Reddit, like I've now kind of more or less quit Reddit because I couldn't deal with it anymore. But like reading like the spin stories, which then become like it was this weird like super weird spin daisy chain where like you'd start off with like something which has semi-truth and then get to some really crazy scenario where like I don't know. Yeah, I just stopped fucking reading Reddit. It was so
I love it at times, but then if you dive too deep, like before you realize it, you get sucked
there's a rabbit hole which is very deep.
Yeah.
But like I don't think it's like this whole blue donut thing. I don't think that was really ever an issue. It was just kind of a means to an end. And obviously within like Pappy, you have certain alliances which work and have worked together for a very long time. Horde, PH.
The Transfam guys are pretty tight.
Exactly.
Fraternity is very close to those guys too, right?
Yeah, but then think like groups like XIX, AOM, even Legacy weren't particularly close to PanFam back then, obviously. So.
True, and we made an effort. That's so weird. We made an effort to not make you guys work too much together, which is funny, right? We were deployed in Curse, but we made an effort to not hit towards XIX all too much, like XIX and Valkyrie lines. And man, Valkyrie lines were up for some good fights. I'm telling you, like I was like looking at them. It's like we had some good broads against them. It was good fun. And I think they're solid dudes, actually. I'm not sure if there's any Valkyrie guys here, but like, it's a solid little group. But we're like, if like we can't gain that much from hitting them, but you guys would then work together, and then we know how it is. You bond over time in battle, and then that'll never dissolve, right? And we saw some alliances kind of take some distance and not be as much present in those big fights. And I think XIX and the guys, they weren't really that invested in this whole thing, so they showed up when they had to, really, but they were like, yeah, do we care too much?
Honestly, even Fraternity, like Fraternity were quite committed to the war early on. They're at least showing big subcat numbers, but towards the end, I definitely noticed a severe lack of Fraternity numbers, and they had to I noticed that they were being prodded heavily to actually get their guys back into Delve. Like they even moved their Supers and Titans out at some point, if I remember correctly. So they actually extracted a lot of stuff. So yeah, like it wasn't. Again, that's one of the issues that when you're dealing with a big coalition of groups which all have different command structures and different figureheads, different ways of playing the game and dealing with issues and whatever, then it's very hard to maintain a cohesive unit, right? And that was one of the big advantages that Goonswarm have, obviously, because they're such a large alliance in and of themselves. Like that single command, single fleet kind of structure, not single fleet, but single command, single member-based structure is very advantageous in that case.
I mean, it's Imperium in it, right? So it's like very
but it's you guys have been working together for a very long time, so you've already got that rapport with each other.
Yeah,
whereas a lot of these
we could have done better too. And I always say, when it comes to coordination stuff, man, I struggle with that shit. I like reading all the channels, being up to date all the time, and all that stuff. That's like my weakest point, I think. And like it can cause friction at times too, and it burns me out if I do too much of it. Which was actually at one point I was like, I have to take a break. I took a break of like, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks. I left certain channels and just like took some distance and just like did some fun roams. I mean, I think you guys were on a break at the time too. I was like, okay, I need this now, right? Like just fucking take some distance. And then I rejoined the channels and just, it was no drama or anything, but I was just like burned out from this old shit.
Yeah. Also, the siege was so tiring. It was I suppose for both of us, right? You guys, in the sense that you guys could make those plays on the extract, so there was a lot more content there for you guys. Because you could just wait for us to come in, bomb the gate when we come out, or do little plays around that. Whereas for a lot of the Pappy guys, obviously, because it is a meat grinder essentially, because you can once you see that everyone's forming, Rage Beam carriers, supers, get them on the Voizar or the Keepstar, burn fires to the gate and just mincemeat anything that comes through.
Yeah.
That's not fun to go into. And that's why they had this idea of doing this whole T3C thing, which never actually kicked off, to actually avoid
the gates were so small, there was just no way, right?
Yeah. But anyway, like T3s are trash anyway, so like it's not going to be viable versus the.
If you bring twice the numbers of the opponents,
but just even like
you take losses, but you win.
Heavy missile Tengus versus subs or Eagles. It's not comparable. Like it's just they're kind of crap in comparison to. I think we've already talked about how bad T3Cs are currently in the.
I'm not even sure.
Like with Captator, when I was on with Captator, he was he was very sad for the T3C meta.
They are kind of. I mean, we made a T3C doctrine too, but obviously for other purposes, right? Not on large scale strategic stuff, but more of like a sneaky objective kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like
as you know, I do love my Protoses.
That's true. That's the only T3C that actually gets some kills done, right?
Yeah. But it's a shame.
And your Proteases, yeah.
Huh?
Are you doing any like?
I mean, I actually tried them last night when Slavbat came to.
You mean chemo Proteases, right?
Yeah, chemo Proteases, yeah.
But I came up with chemos, right?
Yeah, I'm not saying mine is in my idea, mate. I'm just saying mine is in my collection of them.
All right. I can talk about it now, but I had like heavy chemos lined up.
Yeah.
So to kill mutants, man, I was so hyped for that. But it's so hard. We were subcap wise, like you said, subcap wise, we were outnumbered, definitely, right? So we had to always think about what do we form, what do we not form. And there's a lot of times where we would say, like, no, we can't afford to have 50 guys in Proteases for a play that might or might not happen. So I formed
Yeah,
them maybe
I
three
think I was
times or
there
four
on I was
times.
there on grid when you tried to do that once. I think you brought them once to a hack brawl.
Yeah,
And I kept chasing you down with the bean tackle squad. we got a few of your boys there. I remember them correctly. But yeah, I mean it's also one of those things. It's like bombers, right? You're set up, but you might not have your actual chance because the minions are
Same.
moving fast. You need them to warp in point
Yeah.
formation, right?
Yeah.
To actually be able to get them on a warp on a perch or something. But
Yeah, exactly what I said to Sieku earlier. It's like it all depends on opportunity when it comes to bombing, right? And we didn't always have the numbers to have a solid bomb wing on top of it. So we didn't have as many opportunities to actually land bomb runs, right? And that's probably where Brogod's comment came from when he said, like, "Oh yeah, imagine being Imperium and not having any good bomber FCs." Like there was also a day before those bomb runs, right? Which was
yeah,
like I don't take offense of that in that, but
yeah. That was
we don't form bombers as much because we can't afford those numbers always, right? We have to
yeah,
form
sure.
quick because we react, and then we need to counter those subcap numbers first, like have a solid fleet on grid, and then we can think about bombers. But a lot of times we didn't have it, right? Like how are you gonna bomb without bombers? But yeah,
Yeah.
opportunity is key when it comes to bombing.
Obviously, like during the fountain stuff, that was obviously the prerogative of goons. Didn't want to take that gate to secure fountain because I think obviously the objective was to turtle back into delve and then just do a scorched earth kind of approach, which made sense. That's
Well, so last episode I had
like, how come goons didn't like? Is there a reason why that they didn't defend fountain?
So they did, but they didn't. So it's not untrue. That narrative, people think, oh yeah, they didn't, like they completely abandoned in it or whatever. That's not what happened.
I remember seeing like goon fleets showing up to help on certain
Yeah,
timers
so
and stuff, but it wasn't a big committal in the sense that they were bringing caps and supers across the gate, right?
yeah, so last episode of FC Chat was actually Jay and Asher, right? So and we talked about exactly that. So the plan to defend Fountain originally was you guys would bring the subcap numbers, but we would have obviously the super advantage because you didn't have any supers in Iridia, right? But you guys had like, I don't know, a shit ton of dreads, right? I think you formed 500 dreads at one time, right?
Yep.
And obviously in it alone, we can't counter 500 dreads. So the idea was that all supers and titans from goons would have a dread basically ready to clone jump into in IGE to then counter your dreads. So what would happen is we take the fight, we field whatever, like a couple of faxes or so, you drop the first dreads, we drop all the fucking goon dreads, right? And then you can choose, like you want to drop your dreads now to counter the goon dreads, then it's 50-50, but then we would drop the innit supers and titans on top of it and, win the fight, hopefully. And then you have no dreads left. And then this whole thing is getting delayed because now we have like free reign with super and titans and not be too scared of the dreads anymore. That was the plan. But a lot of those dreads never got moved. So yes, goons had some dreads in Fountain, but we definitely didn't feel comfortable with the numbers, that was given. So we never, escalated that chain properly. And it never really happened. And it would have been an epic fight. Holy shit, that dread brawl would have been the biggest dread brawl the world has ever seen. And I think it's like, I don't think anyone could like ever get a bigger one, right? But, it like, I also
Hold my beer, dude. Hold my beer.
So that's the thing, what you said earlier, like the same command structure. And also, it's not only the, like we used to working together, but also like we know each other pretty well. So we know, like we have worked with Asher and the other guys for so long. We're friends, right? So when this doesn't happen, if we just knew each other for a week, we would think like, what the fuck, guys? Like, are you serious? Like, you bunch of idiots, whatever, right? And then this whole thing, egos clash and everything goes to shit, right? But we know each other, right? It's like this happened, but let's move on, right? So
yeah, also that's an important thing as well to recognize is that like when you've got multiple groups come together to FC, especially with the coalition styles form up, like it takes a while for those FCs to actually start working out like how do they gel with other people because communication is an issue, and also knowing like where someone's limits are is also a big part of that. So like what a particular FC is good at, what they aren't good at, and how they also what kind of communication skills they have to actually kind of relay what they're doing. and that does take a little bit of time to. Obviously, within your internal alliances, how this works, but
Who to
you know, when
contact and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, but for example, like Horde FCs working with Test FCs, I imagine that took a little bit of time to actually build up kind of a rapport, just to get some.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. I think I underestimated that factor at the beginning of the war because people started talking about that right away. I was like, is that going to be a big issue? But yeah, if it's a month long, a 2 month long war, I don't think it is an issue. But
Yeah.
we're talking a year. Yep. Sooner or later, there's going to be some. And you know how FCs are, right?
Yeah.
Certainly egos in the room, right? So
Yeah.
stuff. And then it's not like, oh yeah, let's have a beer and then we fix it again. Like, no. That shit will never get resolved in the next couple fucking years, right? So any issue stays in the room. And then it adds up.
These issues, like, they create the next drama, right? Post-war
Yeah,
drama.
yeah.
For sure.
That's maybe the actual time pressure you guys had that nobody was actually. I mean, I wouldn't say nobody was aware of, but like there was a clock that was ticking that maybe everyone kind of underestimated too. It wasn't that wasn't the reason for the end though, but so
I think
maybe a little bit.
There might have been some opportunity post M2 when the M2 hell camp broke. I think there was maybe an opportunity to move things a little bit faster and focus more on the 1DQ constellation, but hindsight's always a hell of a drag, right? Like it's hard to actually to look at this and with a realistic viewpoint, right? Because it's all just looking at things what could have gone better, right? But you don't have that choice anymore. So
yeah, but it's always fun to talk about.
Yeah.
So
yeah, sure.
All right.
Yeah.
We're actually super close to 1.5 hours, guys. If you have any good questions, bring them up, right? I might just read Twitch chat and answer or ask. But then what else do I have on the list? So the ESS mechanics you brought up earlier, actually before we went live. So what was that? Like, were you talking about the reserve keys or the like ESS mechanics in general?
Like the actual ESS, like being able to, for example, like one of the things that's happening in Horde quite a lot is now like groups are like moving in marauders, into the ESS and then
everyone
setting
does
them up
that
at 150
everyone
kilometers
wants
away.
to be the cool guy with the fucking paladin.
just farm it, and then they what they do is like they bring in like a small bait fleet and then like 20 guys and stuff, hacks.
That's what I did the other day.
Yeah, encourage people in, and then the marauders just chew through them.
You know what sucked? So you guys had Hordreds undocked. I thought I saw Vargo, but he was docked at the time, so I was like, maybe that dude is gonna undock again. So I sent in, I think it was the same fleet that I webbed later on against Bjorn, I believe. But whatever. I went in and tackled some random Ishtar with like 10 dudes, right? And then like there was a swarm of shit warping into us. It was just so fun, just to like grab in here and there and everywhere. And then they're so used to just the snowball effect, right? They just throw more shit at you until you drown, right? And a lot of times it works. Like, can't blame him too much, right? A lot of times it works. But obviously I had some more people ready too, right? So I brought more people in. And then the Muno fleet was formed. But like the Hordreds never warped over because, unlucky for us, was a fucking random buzzer jumped into our woman. And I think that dude was just shouting on comms, "There's more of them right here," right? And then it's like, and that kind of killed our chances for like a proper, like some shiny snack.
Yeah.
But yes, that's how it works sometimes. The effort of one guy, right? That one buzzer who's like, let me see. I saw these guys come out of this. Let me have a look inside, and then he finds the rest of the fleet. But yeah. I thought that was funny. But the ESS mechanics, I think they're pretty on point, actually. Right? More on point than I first thought too. Because I was afraid of the whole AB thing and that the meta is all gonna be like sniper shit at range. I mean, it kinda is developing in that direction, but
yeah, that's one of the issues. I think that it's going in that direction, right?
Yeah. But at the same time,
I'm not sure how you'd fix that either. But
that you can't cloak in there at all.
Yeah,
for example,
you pre-stage stuff, right? Then you bring something to bait people in and whatever, and then you get decloaking marauders and stuff like that. That's pretty cancer because you can't catch them either because
they're quite slippery.
Unless you pre-stage on their pre-stage, it doesn't really work because they can MJD out and then warp off to a safe. But
Yeah,
At
Beyond
least
likes
it's
to do
something
that.
new. It's something new that people are coming up with, different different gameplays for and whatever. So that's still quite cool. But,
Yeah. Also, I like so people the other day. I like to fight on the ESS grid even outside because you can't warp to each other, right?
yeah,
And that's a big factor. So you can take some range, and you actually that range you took, it still works for you. Nobody's just gonna let's warp to a ping and then warp straight down on 0 and here we are, right? No, they have to actually get to you first and stuff. So I like that. But someone in Fleet was actually like, oh, this is like so OP or like broken or whatever. And I'm like, no, it's a different environment, so it's an opportunity for someone to create content with it, which we're doing right now, right?
yeah. I don't think it's really OP.
No, I don't
I
think so
mean,
either.
it's not like you make a choice, right, to go to that grid. So if you don't want to fight on that grid, don't go to the grid. It's not like you have to go there. You can also just wait, right? You can wait on the out gates or whatever for your fleet or whoever's fleet to get bored and then try to extract. If you don't want to,
That's
go into
exactly, yeah. You know what you're getting into, right? So
yeah. But
right. So there's a question in chat actually. Who do you guys think will be involved in the next big conflict? I think definitely Fraternity.
yeah,
Man, they're building up to it.
yeah, dude. It's funny. Norris is like anytime he can like start a war with AOM, he's on it. Like any chance there is, it's always there. But obviously that's all the bad blood from the Serenity server. But yeah, the issue is like for Imperium is that like for respect to Vasilov, like I don't think like Imperium are going to get into war without basically everyone else in E forming up again, because obviously just it's a numbers game. Like unless Imperium just does a SIG deployment like they did last time into Venal, where they or Pureblind, where they have a smaller group, then you might be able to not get blobbed out by the blue donut in inverted commas. But yeah, if Imperium deploys and hold, then obviously it's going to unite the rest of Eve again because it's just a numbers game at that point. But yeah, Frat versus AUM for sure. A lot of people I think are looking at XAX right now as a taster target. I'm not sure whether that's for like whaling type content or actual I know that Sedo's group I think are doing stuff versus XAX I think.
Oh yeah.
Or have been roughly
But
not maybe
Sedo is
not maybe
not
not versus
very
XX
active.
directly, but maybe Fire Coalition. They've been doing some stuff versus them, but
I don't wanna talk bad about Sedo. He's a friend, but to lead a campaign against anyone right now, I think he's not active enough. I don't think he would commit all that much. So
maybe yeah.
I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I've not been following what he's been doing, so but you might be right, yeah. But it's tough as well. Like post-war, the issue is like obviously with Legacy falling apart, not as bad as Test having to. That does reduce a lot of the active groups that are living, in other areas. Like for example, I looked at the map a couple of days ago and I just saw that there was absolutely no one undocked in Omist, for example, which is bad, right? Obviously, AOM are moving over to Esoteria, wherever they're going.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly where they're going, but still, like having essentially empty regions is not a good thing.
Dude, I mean, if you're Filament now, there's like for a gang like the size gang I like to do, there's like 4 Desties in all of Eve. Like everything else is a gamble. Like you might just be able to catch something, but it's a snack. It's not a fight, right? To get a fight, there's 4 places you can go. It's like 4-H Fraternity. Like enjoy, right? Then you have R1O, like get the same story, right? Then you have now GODT. Then you have GODT, that's test. And then you have XIX, YZ. Yeah, and then obviously you would have goons if you're hostile. Or maybe Arctic A, that's
you're suicidal, maybe.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know, like I think in order for Eve to recuperate its content a little bit, we need to get rid of antiplexes, those zero fatigue antiplexes, man. Like stop people getting.
I don't think the fatigue is the problem. You know what?
I think it is, because like if you can teleport across in 50 systems in 10 minutes just because you can use these zero fatigue things, then
that's
a
them
problem
so
because you
much.
can.
I'm about to go up, actually.
Yeah, but they're good, and they're good because it makes
today.
life easier, right? But I don't think they're good for the game in the sense that it just makes people be able to control a large space, and obviously like that's very symptomatic of PAMFAM, obviously, because PAMFAM is controlling a large amount of drones, which I don't think is particularly good in general.
There's a couple of things I like about him now. So first of all, you can ref them as like to get a reaction, cause it impacts someone's gameplay, the hostile's gameplay, right away. Because if you ref it, they can't use it till it comes on. And then it's only one timer, so they kind of have to form. So there is a double incentive to get rid of it right away and actually form and, do it. Like Bjorn likes to say, ring the doorbell. So it is quite good at getting fights. Right now all the staging is so blobby, like it's tough, dudes. But you could still do it and get a fight. Bjorn did it yesterday. He got 2 fights, right? And one of them was me, actually. But
But what I'm talking about is like some kind of incentive to spread people out, right, and not have everyone bundled up. And I think antiplexes are a part of that as well.
So what I always say when it comes to antiplexes is like they should actually be only for your alliance or password protected. One of the two. You can choose, right? Instead of the ACL thing, because the ACL thing then makes the coalition thing so strong, right? Like every renter, everyone can just use it and it's safely. But if it was password protected, the bigger the group, the more likely is that everyone knows the password, right? So now there's an incentive for smaller groups to have jump bridges and manage their own stuff, which nobody knows the password of, because like I don't know the password of like Respect, Honor, Passion, Alliance, jump bridges, like. Maybe someone wrote it down somewhere. I can look it up. Whatever.
I know what it is, mate. It's click clack.
Yeah, maybe it is. But the thing is, I think that would be a kind of a good middle ground. And then also antiplexes, they shouldn't, spawn you so far from each other in a sphere. They should like, you come in, you shoot into the antiplex from one direction. You should then come out the other side, maybe drift a little bit, like an old like station undock. And then stand in a certain area. Then you could be engaged right there. You know what I mean? Instead of like having the bubble in the middle and it can't even catch anyone, right?
Yeah.
So I think like these little changes, they would put antiplexes actually in a good spot, and they would create content still, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. They are critical for like content leaks right now. Sure, I didn't really think about that as a thing, but that's a good point. Yeah, man.
All right, let me quickly we do like super quick answers to these questions and we call it, because it's like we're over 1.5 hours. Beside whaling, where will the content be now that post-war is getting settled? Beside whaling, oof. I mean, roaming gangs, ESS stuff is I'm gonna say ESS stuff.
Yeah. It's hard to really. Whaling is one of the big. I think, especially with Q4 changes coming, whaling is going to be one of the big content providers like soon. I mean, it was pre-war, right? Before this war went down, it was one of the main ways that people got there, especially for Horde, and I'm sure in it as well. It's one of the main ways that we got our content fix was through dangerous adventures in other people's space. Right now, like whaling's not great. Obviously, it's okay for you guys because you've got Pantam to farm. Not a huge amount of groups are using the larger ships on a regular basis. They're still using them, but it's not like they're spread around space, so it requires lots more scouts and all stuff. So it's a little bit harder to do right now. But maybe with Q4 changes coming soon, that will change, which would be a welcome thing for me.
That kind of leads into the next question. Do you think if they kneecap Rorquals, then Ulcer Hunting is going to be pretty dead? Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Next one. If you can at least see that there's 3 players in there, it would help.
I never thought there was a problem with like how much Rorquals could mine. Like, I always thought there was a problem with how safe they were, but obviously with the lots of nerfs they had, I think they're in a reasonable place right now. But the initial incantation of the Rorqual was like this where you could fit 6 capital XALSBs on it, and then have 150k active EHP tank, something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And and then the panic thing that was.
I think before the last nerf, they were in a good place. I liked it, and then they did the next nerf, removed a little bit more tank, and put the excavator V2 thing in there, so they can't save as many excavators anymore. I thought that pushed it over the edge. So it was for a lot of people, it wasn't worth the hassle anymore, and that's where we saw a lot of Rorquals gone. And I thought it was sad. Yeah. And the paladin thing, that's exactly what I mean, right? So like, why can you cloak inside the ESS over 75 km? So at least when you land on it, and you descan. If you don't see anything on descan, it might be combat recons, but combat recons aren't OP, right? Let's be honest. So I think that would be fine.
That would be really cool to see if people are going to start running combat recon fleets.
I do
that would be really interesting.
I do that every now and then. I sprinkle some curses into those Gila fleets, and then you only get 8 Gilas on scan, and people are like, 8 Gilas, we can do this. But then there's like 6 curses in that fleet, and it's like, oh yeah, 6 curses. They have some DPS, but the new power is kind
of I have no logic. Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. Being able to cloak 200 nerfs. Yep, exactly. That's what we said. No cloak. That would help. Yep. Any questions? What would it take to break up the blocks? What? A lot of game mechanic changes. Like some real incentives for people to be in smaller groups. I don't know what they are.
It's a really hard. It's
not
thing.
easy.
So it's such a difficult thing, and I don't think yeah, I think it's going to be like trial and error at this point to try and fix this, because it's not like you can really big brain a complete solution, right? So it has to be incremental, I think, in how you fix that, because you have to see, like, you'd have to do a small change and then see how the game reacts to it, and then do another one. You can't do huge changes like that to really fix that issue.
Yeah, maybe there's one golden change that we just don't see yet that can fix it all. The Jesus change, but maybe one day.
Yeah.
Do you really think the Blue Donut will reform as soon against goons? As an aggressor, no. As a defender, the second it's needed, they'll reform. Yeah, I think so.
As I said, like, it's a necessity. Like, no one wants to get the space steamrolled.
Imagine you guys, like, you have all your alliance leaders now, like Gobbins, Willy, and Noros, whatever. They come out and say, like, okay, guys, now we've got the plan. Everyone mobilized. We're going back to Delft. That would be ridiculous. That would be ridiculous.
T5Z number count increases by 7.
The trick is actually not T3Cs. The trick is Marauder fleets. Everyone's skilled at the Marauders. They're already seated in NPC Delft.
Let's just sit in the ESS.
Grab them while they're hot.
No. Yeah, no, but that's not a thing. Like, I think everyone wants a break at this point.
Yeah, I think everyone.
Also, I imagine from the Imperium side as well. Like,
yeah. The test is next thing. It sounds good, but like, next can be like in a couple of years. Okay,
that's open. That's an open question, right?
Exactly.
It wasn't like test is next in a year, right? It's. I mean, you can spring that card in 5 years. Whenever it happens, it happens.
Yeah, people say test is now as if we're already on the offensive. But no, test is now then means, whatever we can do to hurt them, sure. Like, hunting them a little bit more than the others and all that stuff. But let's not
go. Test, man. They're already in a bit of a shit place.
And then also, like, shit place, you say that they're in the back end of drone space. Like, how are you going to get there? Ugh. I don't even want to start thinking about that. What do the FCs think about the bigger filaments, like needlejacks for 200 people? You know what? That would be, so it's always in the details. So you say, and I know where that's coming from. Imagine you could project a 200-man fleet into like random space. But now what if that filament is like super rare and it's like an officer filament? You have to actually pay solid for it. And then you still have like a chance of landing in fucking, in your staging. Right? So, you kind of have to bring 2 or whatever. And then, people know about you forming anyway. So it's like, they're not that strong.
I don't know, man. Like, in that case, it'll be like an extraction tool in that case, right?
You'd bring it on. You're right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you'd bring it as, if you but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe, I don't know, maybe, that might encourage people to then start taking bigger fleets out, like using faction battleships more aggressively.
I think you're pretty much on point there. Because today, the Drago fleet I took out, we made a mistake and poked the Fraternity Rock on. You know what happens when you poke a Fraternity Rock on, right? There's a shit ton of mutants suddenly coming after you. So we had to bounce saves. And I said, actually, literally to our fleet, I was like, thank God for those filaments. Because otherwise you would have to log off back in the day. Like, and how bad is that? That you have to log off from a game. You want to play, but you have to log off. It forces you.
I want to claim that I had some part in those filaments.
You did?
I'm not sure if I did, but I think I did.
I don't know.
Yeah, so
for me, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't know, like, like I was asked to like to kind of come up with like a way to make small roaming gangs more safe in deep like hostile territories, like deep umbrellas, right? Maybe not the bigger gangs, but like smaller fleets, giving them some ability to get in and get out relatively safely. And what I suggested was small generatable wormholes that the small fleet could take, but only that fleet. And then like a month later, boom, filaments. So I'm not sure like if that was me or if that was just like coincidence. But
I just know the guy behind it is CCP Signal and CCP. Oh, one of the not so ultra known guys. Someone say it. Let's give him credit. That was a solid invention there.
Oh, it's really good.
I didn't. Nobody saw that coming, really, right? I mean, you kind of you were dreaming of something similar or so, but
I mean, I was like asked to come up with something like as a way to help these smaller gangs get in and out and without getting like camped in system and stuff like that. And
yeah, maybe you should ask. No, it wasn't. Rise wasn't involved in this particular thing, but Rise is a solid one too, right? Whenever Rise is involved, I'm not as scared, if you know what I mean. So,
I mean, it's absolutely a solid change. Like that's probably one of the best changes I think for.
Yeah. You know what? I thought about doing like, so people do these like rating like the tier lists of stuff. I was thinking about doing like an episode of like rating the best changes, the recent best changes, like just to think about it, because I think we overlook some of those good changes a lot of times.
And I guess you do that with a relatively large panel of people, so everyone can like the AT like shit list rankings that we had before the tournament started.
Exactly.
but for game changes, that could be interesting.
Yeah, and ESS and filament and all that stuff. I mean, filaments there must be like S tier, right?
Yeah, totally.
All right, there was one question left there, and I think if we don't have like a really good question left, I think we're gonna call it after this one. How do mechs compare to Munin fleets for big ops? What is a big op? Is it like 100 plus? I would guess so, right? I think if it's one fleet versus the other, mechs do pretty well. The second it gets a little chaotic and there's like two fleets versus the mech fleet, even the two smaller fleets, the mech fleets will that one fleet will suffer, right? It's tough once you get shit on zero and you get scrammed and it's chaos. And you're gonna lose mechs.
That's a key point. Like you've got to be able to dictate range in that scenario. Like if you lose range, then it's gonna go to shit.
In a one-on-one scenario,
you're gonna stop tracking so well with those arty guns as well versus those Munins.
Yeah, one-on-one scenario they do pretty well. We flew them a couple times in catch, and they did pretty well. That one time it was kind of shit. We jumped in, wanted to pull range, and our skirmish booster, shout out to Percy, right? Not in the best possible way. Our skirmish booster did not activate his third link, which was of course, a rapid deployment link, right? So we were expecting to pull range at a certain speed, but it was way too slow, and I was like, I don't know. Last time it worked better, right? And then in mid-fight we kind of realized and stuff, and then but it was just too nasty already. And
also it's like that goes back into the thing about the hacks. Is like they're so fast. Like even with Macarials, which are very very speedy, you still can't. It's very hard to dictate range against them, and they also have very good alpha. In the case of Munins, so it becomes a hard trade at that point. I'm not sure if a full hack fleet would trade. Like how badly it would trade versus a full Mac fleets if you're in range, if you're in that sweet spot where you've got where the minions can.
The problem that you always have is what's gonna keep them from just burning out of bubbles, warping to ping, aligning to you, probing you, and warping you straight onto you, and then they're in range at least for a certain amount of time.
That's why, dude. That's why we need these aimable dicta bubbles, man.
You know what's also interesting that came up when the whole discussion about warp formations came up was the minimum warp distance. Like, why is the minimum warp distance 150? Why isn't that 300, right? And I thought that was a good point, especially for kiting and stuff. It should actually be 300. And I think that's just a relic from the good old times when the grids were just tiny, right? Like 800 km, you're already off grid, basically, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Or 300 km, that was like a distance everyone was like, oh my god, right?
I wonder how that would affect the like the kiting meta as well, like whether we'd see more brawling.
Certainly a little bit, right? But but you wouldn't be too scared of kiting up to 200 km, right? So suddenly maybe you would have sniper nagas that reach to 300 and they whoop in at 250 and stuff, and then those Munins, they would have to burn to that distance, but like by the time you make that distance, those nagas, I don't know. I'm just speculating. All right. How is the recap of the war going? The video? I haven't worked on that, guys. I was said I'm thinking about doing it, but like, man, it's a massive project, and I think I heard Brisk say he's gonna do something similar. Now, I'm guessing that Brisk's version is gonna be slightly biased, but I don't know. Well, mine would be biased too. Let's be honest, right? But
Fan and Frank is a very unbiased character, so I've been told.
Yeah, I mean
I actually had never watched a Phantom Frank
no
thing. I've never seen it.
Well, it's just a fun thing. There's no ill will to anyone. But yeah, I would say let's call it right here. We kind of went a little longer than planned, but we had a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on. Alrighty, guys. Then I would say thanks for hanging out. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And special thanks to Chosshu and also Sieku. Sieku had to run for coming on. I know Alice couldn't make it. It is what it is. He kind of warned me. I should have known. But maybe I'll get him on another time. Alrighty, guys. And then, yeah, enjoy the skin, whoever gets it. And see ya on the next one. Bye-bye.